In an effort to improve as storytellers ourselves, you have heard us talk a lot about studying what came before us, but today we are going to practice what we preach and put into practice what we learn during our analysis of other stories. And today we are going to be using our previous video's topic, the Giancarlo Esposito video, and we're going to be taking that story, that premise, that treatment, and we're going to be connecting a couple of our key beats in that story. I do not expect you to have to go back and watch that entire video, so I'm going to sum that up in a little bit. But in order to give you the gist of what we're going for today, we're going to be taking two of the beats from Blake Snyder's Save the Cat beat sheet. We're going to be taking our first two, the opening image and our theme stated, and we're going to be connecting those. Blake Snyder talks about in his beat sheet, he uses page count to indicate when these certain beats should happen. Opening image obviously happens on page 1, and theme stated happens on page 5. So it's not a lot of time, but connecting these two in a way to where the opening image will set up our theme being stated is what we're going to try to do, because in my opinion and in our opinion here, we like to use the domino kind of analogy for storytelling, where your story needs to start off with some domino being tipped, and that is what hits the next one and hits the next one. And just like everybody else, you know, your opening image will lead to your theme stated. At least that is the goal in theory. And so we're going to be using our treatment that we've already come up with, our characters, and so on, to give us the starting point from which to get what the two beats are and to connect those today. To give you guys the context that we need, we are going to be using our treatment from a previous video. Like I said, that will be in the description, and I will put it in the card up in the top, your top right, my left, your top right of your screen, so you can look at that treatment. I'm not going to change it for this because I kind of like the idea of having a through line. So we're going to be taking that story, which is this character that we came up with that for a specific actor, Giancarlo Esposito, that takes place in Highland Park, which is a city in Los Angeles, one of the, you know, smaller sub-cities in the Los Angeles area. And then it is a memoir or a kind of pseudo biopic for our purposes. So we're taking that specific story, and the story in general is that his character runs for mayor of Los Angeles, and there is a trial that comes up that brings some things from his past up that start to throw monkey wrenches into his candidacy and his campaign, and that is what kind of sets off the events of the story. There's one other character that is very important to this story, and that is his childhood friend, Hector. Grew up with Giancarlo's character and has been with him ever since, and is part of his campaign as his campaign manager, at least for half of the story. And so that's the context for this particular story that we're going to be using, and that's where we're going to be starting with. So just to give you a little bit more about the two beats that we are talking about, the opening image I don't think needs much explanation. It's literally just your opening image, but the theme stated, I will use Blake's own words for this. Somewhere in the first 5 minutes of a well-structured screenplay, someone, usually not the main character, will pose a question or make a statement, usually to the main character, that is the theme of the movie. So, like he said, somewhere in the first 5 minutes, for him in a 110-page script, it should be by page 5. So we're going to be using this short template of these two beats and 5 pages to come up with what we are going to use to get us from the opening image to the theme being stated. Now, we're going to start off with our opening image, and the first thing we have to figure out is where we are going to start. Now, for me, having thought about this story since we made the video, I've kind of started to flesh it out more in my mind and in a Google Doc. So my opening image is going to be the reason for there being a mayor candidacy opening within the campaign. So, um, and the resources to have the campaign for Giancarlo's character, because like we said, um, is many times about storytelling, your character cannot start off being proactive. They kind of have to start off being passive, and there must be something, some situation that kind of pushes them over that edge and in out of the plane to start skydiving, right? So our opening image, which will give us the stage on which this story will be set. So our opening image is going to be our main character, Giancarlo Esposito, standing at the back of the room for a press conference being held by the person that he is working for. Now he is kind of he's a lobbyist at the beginning of this story. He is not in contention for mayorship. So this opening image is going to start off with him at the back of the room watching the person that he has been lobbying for and kind of helping out with their campaign. He's going to be at the back of the room watching this person terminate their candidacy or, withdraw from the campaign. And that will be our opening image to show that this character is kind of spiteful and against what this person is doing. He is a character who is trying to be very strong and thinks that the politicians should be strong enough to make the tough decisions and to be able to go through the campaigns and to go through their terms and be very strong-willed in trying to get the right things done and do the right thing even regardless of who likes you or not and what is going on within the parties and whatnot. So he is disappointed in his employer for withdrawing from the candidacy, and I feel like opening on that image of Giancarlo being disappointed in someone that he looked up to would really allow us to get an immediate sense of who this character is and what he thinks of the particular arena in which he chooses to make his career. So that is our opening image. Now, how we get to our theme being stated requires us to know what our theme is. And for this particular story, I have really wanted to explore the idea of heavy is the head that wears the crown. So that is kind of the overall theme that I'm going for. My major premise is the fact that when someone is in a position of leadership, it is very stressful, right? We always say, the most stressful job in America is being the president, right? And there's a reason it takes a toll. When you're in a position of leadership, having to make tough decisions, it does take a toll on a person. So that's the idea that I want to go with. I feel like it goes hand in hand with like I said, the arena that our character has chosen to make their career in. So, like I've said before, the main idea of this particular video is for us to formulate a way to get from Giancarlo at the back of the room being disappointed in his employer and probably his mentor who was running for mayorship. We have to get from that to the idea of heavy is the head. So like Blake says in the book that the passage that I read earlier, in the first 5 minutes, someone, usually not the main character, will pose a question or make a statement, usually to the main character, that is the theme of the movie. So if we want to have this heavy is the head conversation be had, to me it only seems logical that Giancarlo's employer, the person who is withdrawing from the campaign for mayorship, is the one to pose that question, or I think she, doesn't matter. I don't know at this point. They would make that statement to our main character, Giancarlo, about the stress and the idea that we're trying to get across. So how do we connect our opening image to that idea? So now we have our two scenes that we've gotten so far on paper, and the first one is the press room with Giancarlo and the press, and then our our secondary character who is the employer. So we have that scene, and then now we have come up with the scene that will take place on or around page 5, which is between the employer, the former candidate for mayorship, and John Carlos. So how do we connect those two? Well, I think personally it would be a good idea for us to introduce our primary supporting character. So Giancarlo's best friend, Hector, is our primary supporting character, and getting him into the story as soon as possible allows us to um, keep him in the minds of our audience, and also it allows us to start laying the groundworks for their friendship, for their long-time friendship. Because one of the things that you generally don't want to do is introduce characters that are important too much later on, especially since Hector has something to do with politics and is going to be Giancarlo's campaign manager later on. It would only make sense to me for him to be involved potentially in this campaign or failed campaign now with Giancarlo. To me, it just makes logical sense that we would need to introduce him next. So going from our opening image to something that connects with Hector, I think it would be great for after our opening image and after that initial kind of maybe few shots that we have. I don't know, not yet at least. And honestly, you can't know until you have a working script with you. But after our opening image and after our very visceral initial shot with Giancarlo being so disappointed, it would probably go to a different scene, one where Giancarlo is questioning why this person withdrew. And since it is a press conference, that the former candidate would most likely be continuing to ask or answer questions asked of them, still out in the press room. So Giancarlo would probably go back, talk to Hector, who is also on the staff for this campaign, and that's kind of where we would we would introduce Hector in that scene, and we would also start to kind of lay the seeds, or introduce to our audience as these two characters are best friends, are thick as thieves, are kind of ride or die kind of friends. So that is our second scene. So our last thing that we have to do is we have to get from our scene where Giancarlo's character and Hector, his best friend, are talking to our theme being stated. We only have 5 pages, so that scene can't take too long. So most likely 2, maybe 3 pages at most, where we can really, through our dialogue between those two characters, get a good, solid, concise sense of who these characters are and what they believe when it comes to politics. So getting from that to our theme being stated, we have our third scene, and the scene that will transition us into our theme being stated, which is our employer, the candidate who withdrew, is going to come in from the press room, come into that back room where Giancarlo and Hector are, and then they will kind of voice their concerns, voice their valid reasons, are valid to them, reasons as to why the campaign should continue, and really questioning why this person has withdrawn. And the other thing that I also wanted to kind of ancillarily I don't know if that's a word. The other thing that I wanted to add on to the idea of heavy is the head that wears a crown is the fact that we, as the public, and even within like friends and coworkers, we rarely know everything that is going on, especially in someone's mind and the stress that they are being put under. We all handle stress differently. We all handle different stress differently. So the idea that this character, that Giancarlo, would believe a certain way about a politician and how he thinks that they should be strong-willed enough to just be able to continue on and to do the right thing, regardless of the extenuating circumstances or how they feel about it, he will also later on be put into situations where he fails at that as well. So having the primary theme is heavy as the head that wears the crown, but having things that add on to that, which allows for there to be more contradictions and more depth within the character that Giancarlo would be playing. So as they question this candidate, they would kind of they would be aggressive in their questioning. They would be very adamant about their beliefs because they are so, at this point in time, naive about the effects that this kind of pressure can put on someone and how it can affect them mentally, and when it comes to making the right decisions. Our theme being stated I would hope to be a little bit more subtle than just the person, saying, I'm stressed and this job is stressful. So I think that tying it into our location is another thing that we can do. This person was not running for mayorship of some unknown city that has the population of a few thousand. Los Angeles, as everybody knows, is one of the largest cities in the world, the largest, I believe, in area city in the United States. So it is not like it's a cushy, easy job with very little to do. So as far as mayorships go of cities, it's probably one of the most stressful. So that is how we would attack our theme. We wouldn't have them come out, or I would rather not have them just come out and just instantly say, "Oh man, I'm really stressed. Campaigns are tough. I'm dealing with a lot. That's why I'm doing it." But really tying it into our location with making the fact that Los Angeles is such a big place with many, many things going on in the city, that will allow us to have valid reasons, at least valid, that Giancarlo and Hector can kind of be forced to take a back seat, with even the potential idea of this candidate like listing off things that they've had to think about when it comes to their campaigns, when it comes to their debates, when it comes to their policies that they were promising to implement. Los Angeles, like I said, not a small place. So really tying in the location and the weight of the location to add on to the weight of the crown of being a mayor of a city or a mayoral candidate is really what I want to use to give us, that's the vehicle I want to use to deliver the message of our theme. With that, you can see how we would tie one of our beats to the next, and really making sure that we try our best to have those dominoes fall. Like I said before, I really like the analogy of dominoes because it's a visual thing that you can, see. You can see one domino set up, and when it falls, it should hit the next one, right? If it doesn't, we are disappointed when it comes to dominoes, and that is one thing that can, it's one of the pitfalls that can happen for screenwriters who are trying to create stories that flow well, is making sure that each of your beats will flow into the next one, and connecting those with scenes that happen in between those beats is really the secret, because anybody can come up with an opening image and anybody can come up with a theme, but making sure that those are connected in some way and making your opening image allow and set up for your theme being stated that's the tough part of coming up with stories, making sure everything is connected. So hopefully you guys can see how we did that. There will be a document in the description that is not just the treatment that will be there, but there will also be another document that has our what I talked about here with our opening image, our theme stated, and then a brief description of the scenes that that I talked about. So look for that in the description. You can read over that. And I would like for you to tell me how you would connect those two things. And you can come up with your own opening image, and you can come up with your own theme for this particular story. You have the treatment down below, and it would be really cool to see what you would come up with for these two beats and how you connect them. So yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and hopefully that gave you some insight as to how to connect these two particular beats.